Today we need to get into a mass protest outside of the label and what that is about. We also have people saying that Jung Kook is no longer training and what that is about and why this is kind of crazy. And then we have Jung Kook being completely out of Korea, like sold out of Korea. So Dumplings is Dave, decide hate it or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on, and make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon with some free content on Saturdays now, and let's go. So if you're not aware, the BTS members dropped their new album or their new release called Monochrome. They dropped a lot of stuff with it. It was merch, it was several other things, and people were very excited to see what this is all about. Now everything is being sold in Korea right now, and you can get everything, I think. You can order it online or you can go into physical stores and buy some of the Monochrome merch. There was one thing that was being sold, which I think was a photo book. I don't know what's exactly in the photo book because I haven't gotten my hands on it yet, but I assume it's just photos of these specific members that you can buy. But there was a photo book of RM, there's a photo book of Jimin, there's a photo book of every single person in the group, and you can buy the photo books separately, so you don't have to buy all 7 of them. You can buy them individually and just get the one that you want. Of course, if you're like me, you'd probably want all 7 of them, but my wallet says no. Now the one with Jung Kook in it and that photo book apparently sold out in that specific store in Korea. So it was believed that every other member still had books on the shelf, but the only one that was sold out was Jung Kook himself. Now this was interesting, and I don't know how accurate it was, although it's not surprising as he did have a very successful solo career and he was one of the last, so it makes sense that he is still fresh in everyone's mind. However, to say that he is the only one that sold out and he is better than everyone else is not good and not something he would want. I don't think he would be happy knowing that people are comparing him to the other members or pitting him against them, because it's never been him against them, it's them versus the world. It's so odd to pin people against each other, especially people who clearly love each other. Because if you were to say that you love me, but then you hate the people closest to me, chances are it's not going to work. I'm going to be upset with you. And for people to think that he is going to choose his fans over people that he has known almost his entire life and that he considers family is very odd to me, because all of the money, all of the success he could have can go away, and I'm sure he would rather all that go away than to lose some of his best friends and closest people. And that's another thing that's quite odd, is that a lot of people think that Jung Kook is going to choose them over his own family, and that's simply just not true. He doesn't really know everyone, and he might see everyone, he might interact, he might be really happy and thankful that he has everyone, but he is not going to choose his family or his friends over people like us that he doesn't know personally. People were saying that they couldn't find him in all of Korea, and it felt like that he had left Korea, and I totally understand that, because if all of his products have been sold out in every single reputable Korean store, it seems like he just doesn't exist anymore. However, I think online you should still be able to order it, and you would be able to be put into a backlog, I think. Also, I think a lot of stores have this sort of thing where you can put your name down and they'll alert you when a new batch comes in. So hopefully you can do that if you ask them. There's also been a mass protest outside of the label, HYBE, and this is very interesting because I think fans have been trying really hard to reach them. And I think the label has chosen not to address a lot of the controversy. And in my personal opinion, I believe that a lot of the controversy is more nuanced than if they were to just leave a statement. And a lot of the times people get really upset when the label doesn't take what they consider proper action on haters and horrible things that are said online. However, not everything that's horrible that is said online is something that you can take legal action on. If someone is just saying that I hate so-and-so member and they're ugly and they make bad music, not really something that the label could take legal action on. All of those things are just opinions, and a lot of people who are saying awful things like I wish so-and-so would just die already is not really considered a death threat. I don't think. It's just like saying that you wish that they would die through normal causes, which, as horrible as that is, I don't know if these are the types of things that could warrant a lawsuit. I could be wrong, I'm not a lawyer by any means, so if you are, let me know. But I was very surprised to see a lot of funeral arrangements sent to the label. There were so many people sending out the condolence wreaths. If you haven't seen these were basically stands that have some type of flower arrangement or some type of greenery, and then there is a ribbon and a note on it. And a lot of people decided that this was the correct approach to go about a protest, because it was sort of saying the death of the label. So these wreaths, if you will, are usually sent for funerals. So they figured by doing this, it would send a sort of very grim and dark message to the label. Not really a message about killing anyone with the label, but a message about how the label has died or gone downhill. And apparently some people have gotten the wreaths in a public area where they got permission for it to be there, so it's not something that the label can just remove. So apparently it's going to stay there for a while. I mean, some of the things that were said are pretty bad. Congratulations on being the world's world's most incompetent label, with others saying that the label has refused to respond or give a statement, so they're sending their condolences in case they're dead. And I don't know how I feel about this. I think there are things that people could disagree with, that any label does, but to say that they're the worst label ever doesn't really make much sense to me at all. I was reading things where people were saying that the label isn't good, and all the arguments that they make are things like the label doesn't push out so-and-so member of a group as well as others. And the thing is that the BTS community is very strong, and they kind of have an eagle eye on every little thing. So when something isn't done perfectly or to their standard, it's going to be seen as bad, but in reality it might just be a standard way of promoting that artist that other labels might do. And the thing is, a lot of people who are fans of BTS and know about the label are people who don't know anything about any other label and what else is going on in K-pop. So they tend to think that all of the bad things that are happening are just happening to BTS. And I've read so many articles and so many comments of people saying things like that. And I'm very curious as to how far this will go and what people will do next. It seems like the label's approach right now is to not address it, and I don't know what they feel is going to be the next appropriate step. Do they feel like they're going to get some sort of PR person involved and sort of try to rectify the situation, or are they not going to do anything and just not address it at all? There's also been a lot of controversy on what's going on with Jung Kook in the military. Now, if you're not aware, he was recently put into being a chef in the military. And I'm not sure if this is something that he wanted to do and he applied to do it, or if it was something that the military wanted him to do, but it makes sense for him. He loves cooking, and that's great. Now, in a previous video that I did, I talked about or accidentally said something along the lines of being a chef is easy, and I did want to apologize for that because obviously it's not. And I was a line cook for a really long time. My dad is a Michelin star chef, so I know the amount of work that goes into being a chef. And I think I poorly explained what I was trying to say. And in that context, I was trying to say that while being a chef isn't easy, I believe it's easier than shooting, fighting, and training. Now, I do want to quickly say I do get upset when I do say these sort of blibs, but I always feel like people are taking my best interest in heart when a lot of people don't know me and they are not really thinking about me, and they're more so thinking about what they're going through. And of course, right, of course, I'm someone who has done every single job ever. I was a custodian, I was a chef, I worked in an office, I've done every single job, and for a lot of people, they look at what I'm doing now and they think that I just got here from just randomly and didn't ever work hard. And no, none of my jobs were that hard. I'm not a single mother, I wasn't saving people's lives, or wasn't doing anything like that, but I have done a lot of jobs, and I have a lot of respect for people who do various different jobs. So I would never mean to offend someone who's a chef or whatever you are. But going back to Jung Kook, it was interesting because a lot of people were saying that since he decided to become a chef, it was pretty much a guarantee that he wouldn't be training anymore. I don't know where they got this information, but it's not entirely important where they got it because people were making the assumption or creating rumors that he cannot train if he is a chef. People were saying that he chose to be a chef because that means he would no longer have to hold a gun, or he would no longer have to fight, and he could have a much calmer, peaceful enlistment and then be done with it without ever needing to hurt himself. And people phrase this as sort of a shameful thing, and I really want to push back on that because someone who may or may not be choosing to have an enlistment where they don't have to fight, i.e. someone who may prefer an alternative service or someone who may prefer to serve in an office or something, that doesn't mean that they're not serving or that they're doing something less than. I would actually personally prefer if all the members would do an enlistment where it's just them filing paperwork or something. Like, they would probably have a lot of free time and they could probably write music and they could have their voice well rested. It could be a bit more of a break. Whereas fighting in the military, throwing bombs and all that stuff is not a break, and it's very life-threatening. Imagine if they were to get life-threateningly hurt during the enlistment. Let me know what you think. Make sure you check out Patreon for more videos. I'll link down below. Thanks for this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.